Okay, so I'm thinking of what we've said about relational, organisational, Gestalt, ROG. So if I was going to come on a course, what might I expect to get?
Oh, that's a really good question. I guess the first thing that comes to mind, or how I can best represent that, is by talking about my own experience. Because I was doing organizational work, large transformational change work, before I ever came to Gestalt. And what brought me to Gestalt was a sense of, actually, I'd say, kind of hitting a brick wall, or a failure in really being able to make change happen in a co-created way. And so there I was as a consultant trying to sort of apply all these very clever methodologies, and somehow being almost too far ahead of my clients rather than alongside them. And so what used to happen, which is very well known about transformational change, is that most change isn't sustainable. Clearly we know why. If there you are trying to sort of be the expert and make things happen in a client system, and then once you're left, the client sort of reverts back to what they know. So what you will get out of relational organizational Gestalt is an understanding of what it is to be truly present and staying with the uncertainty of change. So primarily, again, is what I got, which is, how can I understand how my use of self is so important? How can I support myself to stay with the uncertainty that brings about? And that was huge, not just for my organizational practice, but also has changed my life. Yes. So, that would be my main point. And for you?
Well, for me, I think, hearing you talk, I mean, it's almost like I had a similar journey but lived in the opposite direction, I think, in that I had a background in psychology and became head of a big department and found myself managing and leading in a very complex, challenging system, the National Health Service here in England. And really increasingly over time noticing that what my own staff were bringing to me, but also clients coming into the service, were huge problems at work. Organisations being maybe quite bullying in their practice, multiple change initiatives, methodologies that effaced people's experience. You mentioned waiting until the consultant had gone to revert. There were many strategies for resistance. And I think what I heard really was an ethical call to say, we can't keep having organisational change practices that actually are so destructive of people in organisations. A bit like psychotherapy. Many people coming into psychotherapy are not coming because of an intrapsychic issue. It's an issue in the situation. So I started to broaden my lens and really think, what does it take to live with and look at organisations when we apply the Gestalt mantra of self as a function of the field? So we look at the field first in terms of an opening for change, transformative change, rather than necessarily thinking we're going to be able to change the organisation by changing individuals one person at a time. So that's not to say that individuals don't change, but I think I became really interested in organisational change processes as a starting point to an ethical field relational stance.
That feels very relevant. I would say, actually, the other key component that any participant will get from coming on the Relational Organizational Gestalt program is a notion that I think is very valuable actually today, which is what we're calling relational organizational development. So relational OD is actually what most organization change is about these days, which is one that is emergent, where the consultant or the practitioner can't abstract themselves, but actually are very much integrated and alongside the client in their journey. One where it is clearly a collaborative venture between organisation and practitioner to make sure that the right sorts of issues are brought into awareness.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking, I guess the little health warning we might want to put on ROG is this might not just change your work.
Yes.
You know, this might change your life,
Yes.
which I know is quite a big statement. But I'm thinking, you know, Gestalt is such a complex methodology. And yes, we look at the practical application at work, but because of the emphasis on use of self, you can expect that you will change.
Absolutely.
Your relationships with others will change. And the best change that can happen is everything gets a bit brighter. You know, we talk about presence as energetic availability, and I think there is a vividness to experience that comes in, and a vividness, hopefully, to your change interventions.
Agree. A liveliness, a colour, a sort of sense of aesthetic there.
Yes, and creativity and experiment, which we often say will come in.
Absolutely.
So those are some of the things you'd get.
I notice we're both getting quite excited. So not that we're biased in any way.
No, not biased at all.